There's a problem with American cuisine, but I'm not talking about the food or what it's made with. The problem is this.
One of Santa Barbara's most popular fast food restaurants is under scrutiny for causing constant traffic on Upper State Street. Perhaps you've been caught in it.
Vehicles turning into Chick-fil-A's drive-thru have caused chaos along Upper State Street.
We got traffic.
It has created an attractive nuisance and a clear and present danger. I don't think we should wait until someone gets killed.
3 dozen cars deep and an hour wait to get a cup of coffee. There's also a huge lunch crowd at the drive-thrus at both the Chick-fil-A in Dedham and Popeyes in West Roxbury.
America is dependent on cars. We use them to get our groceries, to bring our kids to school, to go see our friends, and to get to work. A lot of the world doesn't rely on cars as much as the US and Canada do. And I want to make an argument I don't really see other people talking about. This is not about how suburbs and cars are inherently bad, or how bikes are better. This is about how American car culture is unintentionally designed to hurt American cuisine. And in a larger sense, how cars represent a growing trend in the US, where the consumerism that was meant to give us unlimited options is doing the exact opposite. Now, if you live in a place like this, you generally don't have a problem. But if you live in these places instead, your food options become severely limited, and you get maps that look like this. This is a map of food insecurity in the US. The redder the area, the less food is accessible, and 54 million people, or 1 in 6 Americans, struggle to find food. So what's going on here? Why is it that America can have some of the best food in the world, while also having some of the largest food deserts in the developed world? Are cars really killing American cuisine?
Take a look at the scene here.
We saw several food distribution events, a long line of cars.
The majority of residents don't have access to what we call a supermarket, and a large percentage of the residents don't have transportation.
Let's say you live in Columbus, Ohio, or more specifically, an hour drive away in Pickerington, Ohio. It's the end of the week and you want to relax and go eat out with your friends. So here's some of your options: TGI Fridays, Olive Garden, Smoky Bones, O'Charlie's. If you're not American, these are all chain restaurants. And in Pickerington, Ohio, these are 90% of your choices. This is the same experience if you live in Laurel, Maryland, Allen, Texas, or Lancaster, California. The local dining scene is mostly identical in all of suburban America. And by the way, this isn't because America doesn't have culinary history. It does. It has tons of history. Even during the 19th and early 20th century, a lot of rural Americans in this Midwest and South were developing culinary traditions. Stuff like apple butter, Johnny cakes, and Rupert pies were being made by rural Americans. I mean, this stuff still exists today, but most of American food culture in these areas isn't about this. It's about this.
Hey Ryan, nice to see you.
Yeah, drive-thru really is faster than ever.
Chick-fil-A is adding a second drive-thru lane to speed up service.
55 burgers, 55 fries, 55 tacos, 55 pies, 55 coke, 100 tater tots, 100 pizzas, 100 tenders, and 155 taters.
So why is America dominated by chains? Well, the main answer is cars. In 1921, the Federal Highway Act would go on to change America forever. It made cities that were like this end up like this, and it led a lot of people to move into places that were called suburbs. These suburbs weren't historical small towns, by the way. They were usually close to them, but you couldn't walk from this to this. So the only way to get around was and is by car. One man, Roy Allen, noticed that if more and more people were driving between towns, suburbs, and cities, there needed to be some sort of service in between their destinations. So in 1919, he opened up a root beer stand in California and started serving a special service. He called it curbside service. He sold root beer in a way that allowed drivers to stay in their cars, and it was a huge success. So he opened up more root beer stands under the same name, A&W. All these root beer stands would basically do the same thing: serve root beer to people in their cars. This became such a big hit that Allen knew he could open up more stores, but he didn't have the manpower to do it all himself. So he did something that would redefine modern American cuisine. He trademarked the brand A&W and started selling franchises, allowing people to open up their own root beer stands under the A&W name and sell A&W products themselves. Allen realized that he didn't need to own all the stores. He just needed to own the brand and the product that franchise owners were selling. And this allowed A&W to go from 5 stores in 1920 to 170 in 1933. Eventually, more and more restaurants opened up stores following this model, places like Burger King, KFC, and Pizza Hut. When McDonald's trademarked their name, it was even under the description drive-in restaurant. Fast forward to today, in most of America and Canada, these are your only food options. Franchise chains surrounded by parking lots. Now, I just want to be clear, franchises aren't inherently bad. I like some of these chains, as long as they're not Burger King or Applebee's. But because most of America requires a car to get around, most of the food scene has become like this. These restaurants usually sit on what's called a stroad. They're kind of like roads with faster speed limits and fewer intersections, kind of like a highway with traffic lights and shops along them. But when I say shops, I don't mean local businesses, I mean chains. Stroads hurt local businesses because a lot of these shops thrive off of foot and bike traffic. Stroads encourage only car travel and make public transit less useful. They cause more traffic, pollution, sprawl, and honestly just make cities all across the country look the exact same. I mean, I genuinely tried to find like one positive thing to say about stroads, but there really isn't anything. Like, they don't even get you from point A to point B faster. If done well, a train or bus would take out half the traffic and take half the time. And even if you like cars, they're not good for car travel because they cause congestion. There's literally like nothing good to say about these stroads.
We're supposed to be the smartest, most sophisticated society on the planet, and yet this is how we choose to get around.
And especially local restaurants, places where American food traditions usually come from, can't thrive in these spaces because only big chains can really afford the plots of land that stroads encourage. And it gets worse. These stroads that are dominated by chains actually generate less money for the city overall. Take this street in Brainerd, Minnesota. On the right, you have a new Taco John's with a drive-thru and a parking lot for people's cars. On the left, you have a block of small and local businesses. But these small local shops have largely been ignored and neglected. It looks like this. Remember, these local restaurants are the kind of places that have the potential to preserve the tradition of local foods, like Cincinnati chili or Eggs Benedict, not a volcano quesarito. And this old decrepit block actually makes more tax revenue than this one Taco John's. Car-dependent infrastructure isn't only hurting the economy, they're also hurting the potential for local American food traditions to thrive anywhere that's not like a walkable neighborhood. And it hurts the way we consume food as well. A 2014 study by Stanford University showed that 20% of Americans eat in their cars, and that number is probably a lot higher now after the pandemic. I mean, last year, 90% of total sales from Wendy's came from drive-thrus, which is terrible for the environment and America's obesity problem. It's actually gotten so bad that now a lot of cities in America are actually banning new drive-thrus from opening up. But a lot of the damage has already been done. Where about half of Americans eat like this every day because they have no other choice. And because it's their only choice, they think it's the choice that they deserve. Not to mention, this hurts low-income areas the most. All across the country, places like Memphis and the Central Valley of California are now becoming large food deserts. Even though these local regions produce a lot of local food, people who live in these parts don't have a lot of dining options. These food deserts are often dominated by chains and fast food restaurants, which on the surface at least looks like a healthy competition between different companies, right? Right? Well, the thing is, 10 companies own the 50 largest restaurant chains in the US. 10 companies. Just think about it. 10 companies control the local food scene in the city you live in, because most of America is designed for cars, not people or local businesses. meaning that now everywhere in America is filled with stroads and big chains, like this one in Pickerington, Ohio, or this one in Littleton, Colorado. I mean, is this okay? Is this what we want American cuisine to look like? Fortunately, it doesn't have to be this way. There are many suburbs around the world that have a healthy balance of walkability and local restaurants. I mean, there are even some in the US. Even fast food chains benefit from a more walkable environment. I made a video about how Tokyo does fast food so well in comparison to America, and a large part of that comes from how walkable Tokyo is. Some suburbs are trying to now entice people to move from the cities to their communities to try to revitalize the suburban food scenes there. But the main problem still exists. Until we get rid of stroads and car-dependent infrastructure, this system of corporations dominating local food is gonna continue. And to be honest, I don't know how long it's gonna take for us to fix this problem. So if you live in Pickerington, Ohio, your best option might be Olive Garden for a while. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that video. I just want to be transparent and say that I'm not like an urbanist or an urbanist YouTuber or anything like that. I just kind of had the feeling about American food being affected by car infrastructure there, and just looked for evidence that kind of supported like my feelings. And if you are an urbanist or an urbanist YouTuber or whatnot, and if there's anything I missed or anything I misunderstood, please let me know in the comments, because I just want to kind of start a dialogue about this. I don't know if I'm always going to be accurate or whatnot, especially when it comes to food. A lot of it is quite opinionated and biased. But anyways, yeah, I'm in Vienna right now, and I think a video about the city should be coming out pretty soon by the time that you're watching this, hopefully. So until next time.